Chapter 11, Infiltration. Let's do it. Veli was more cautious than I expected, insisting on a small test first just to see how my idea would work. The setup was less difficult than I assumed it would be. Sci was mostly limited by one's imagination. If you could picture doing something, it became part of the realm of possibility. As long as you had a very clear visualization. Ugh, I'd be terrible at Sci then. I have an awful imagination. And with this, I did. It seemed it was going to work. Veli could look without fear, and I would be his sentinel. He was convinced after the one test, though Jack was still nearby, leaning against a pillar and looking unhappy. With him and the others keeping watch over us, and Celeste nearby in case we needed her, we began. Veli first expanded the sphere with significant speed, encompassing the building and surrounding streets. I struggled to keep up. But we found a sort of rhythm of slow expansions and pauses for him to have a look around. Because I had to encompass his sphere with my own to maintain an active shield, I was somewhat aware of what he was doing the entire time. Ooh, fancy. I could sense him looking around, caging different areas to focus on them, but I did my best to keep my sight pointed outward, not inward. Yet it was almost like I could taste the hint of desperation as he searched for Rowan. It was difficult to ignore. And then I noticed something, at the peripheral of my sphere. Something I thought was a mind bomb, a concentrated ball of psi that didn't belong to either of us. I didn't retract my psi right away, since I didn't want to overreact and halt our search so quickly. While I was trying to decide what to do, Veli attempted to expand again, but his sphere butted against mine, like a barrier. Yeah, just give me a second.
Morgan.
The sound of his voice pulled my mind part of the way back to Cordis. Wait, there's something there. Keeping my mental shield firmly in place, I expanded my sphere until what I thought was the mind bomb came into blurry view in my mind. But it was different. It wasn't the same as what I'd sensed when I ran into the mind bomb in the ruins. Instead, what I thought was a ball of concentrated psi was more like a group of psi signatures all layering on top of each other. A group of espers, maybe? It was still far away, at the very fringes of my sphere, based on where it was relative to our location. I think there's something in the ruins. No. Someone. A lot of someones. There was silence.
How do you know that?
I can see their psi. Just kind of at the edges. Not clearly. Not from here. Silence again as I felt Veli's sphere shift beneath mine.
I think I can see what you mean. But I can't expand my sphere there without causing a reaction.
He started to pull his sphere back.
We'll have to search there on foot.
Sounds good to me. At least we have a location now. Since Brennan had been using the ruins, it was possible we'd located the missing people. But it was difficult to do more searching there like this. A sphere was like a cloud of psi that comprised everything you could potentially focus on at a given time. It wasn't like a soap bubble with a hard edge, though. Psi was more concentrated towards the center of the sphere, and less so on the outside. That's why things towards the outside of the sphere were more difficult to sense or see clearly. If the dense psi of the inner sphere came into contact with the Arayan tech, it could cause a reaction, based on what Jack had told me before. But what if someone could change the shape of their sphere? It was called a sphere because everyone expanded their psi outward in an even radius. Why, though? Because it was easier? Was it possible to change the shape of the sphere to suit the shape of the surroundings? Oh, there's a thought. As Veli pulled back, I kept my sphere in place, wondering if there was a way to check the ruins that was both safe and efficient. The others were speaking in low voices as I wondered this, and I heard Jack say my name. I had promised I wouldn't do anything reckless, but I didn't think they'd accept another attempt to experiment. I retracted my sphere, but expanded it again right away. Not in an even radius, though. In my mind, I pictured the path from the lobby to the ruins. I imagined altering my sphere, the shape of it, squeezing it so it snaked down to the back stairs. It was a struggle to keep the shape contained. My psi wanted to expand evenly, so forcing it to do otherwise was trickier than I expected. It was like trying to squeeze a round balloon into a tube. I needed twice the concentration to keep it compressed. No wonder no one does this. That could explain why Brennan's down there, though. If he's very powerful, he might have an easier time of doing that so the ruins don't affect him and his use of psi. And I was trying to keep myself shielded as well. This was why I had wanted to let Veli search while I kept an eye out for traps. Doing both and keeping a shield in place was hard. And as soon as I got down to the ruins, I'd be in danger of hitting one of those stupid mind bombs.
Morgan, what are you doing?
He already noticed. I heard the voice speaking to me, but ignored it as I continued to search. Jack was coming towards me. I had a dim awareness of it, though my focus wasn't in the lobby. He'd shatter my ability to concentrate and keep searching. Gritting my teeth, I flung a physical shield up to keep him away, adding another level to the mental strain. Good grief. But I could do this. I've always been good at multitasking. Thank you, neuro enhancements.
Morgan!
His voice was muffled by the shield. I flinched the first time he struck it. With his fist, I thought. There was the indistinct thrum of Case's voice, too. Hopefully telling Jack to stop. Case does have a good head on his shoulders, and usually, at least in his route, he recognized when Morgan was up to something clever. I pushed all that away as I paused my search to try to program the shield to stay on its own. That way I didn't have to actively focus on holding it there. I had a feeling that would make it less stable, but I had to hope it would hold for just a few minutes. That done, I focused back on my search. Oh, that looks familiar. When my sphere reached the ruins, I started shifting towards the vague lights I'd seen before, following faint ribbons of psi. Brennan's, I thought. I moved with care, ignoring the beads of sweat rolling down my back, ignoring the heavy weight of psi burden on my mind. Because I had to do this. We didn't have time to search around on foot. If those were the missing people, I wanted to find them as fast as possible. And then at the edges of my consciousness, I felt it. A compact, glowing threat I recognized immediately as an attack. My first instinct was to retreat, to hide from the invading psi and act with caution. But we had been running in fear from this guy for weeks. We couldn't let him continue to do whatever he wanted. I couldn't back down. Jack would be upset with me, but I had to fight back. I had to take a risk. I pushed back against the attack, lashing out with my own psi. There was a moment of resistance and, I thought, a flicker of surprise on the other end. I shoved back again, expanding my sphere against the psyche of the other person. There was a violent clash of psychic energy that crackled at the edges of a mind, a strange sensation that was half physical and half mental, but unquestionably painful. The resistance strengthened, and then our psi mingled for a split second. And there was an explosive reaction, like sodium and water. I lashed out one more time, and that attack hit Brennan. He recoiled in pain and his psi wavered. Ooh, a challenger. There was a flash of guilt, but in the split second the shape of his psi crystallized in my mind, I acted. In a flash, I extended my sphere down the long corridor towards the group of signatures I had seen before. There were dozens of filaments snaking their way away from Brennan and attaching to the others. And I severed them, the same way I'd done with Jack. Damn, girl is so strong this route! Just like taking scissors to fraying fabric. Well, not just like that. It took a great deal more effort to sever psi than fabric. And the strain of doing it weakened the physical barrier I'd been keeping around myself. It happened in an instant, and, back at Cordis, the brittle physical shield I'd left in place shattered. And a split second later, Jack was grabbing my shoulders, jolting my consciousness back to the lobby of the court, leaving me gasping in pain. My sphere contracted painfully, leaving the ruins, Brennan, and the others behind. I doubled over, vision swimming and ears ringing, but the rebound wasn't as bad as I expected. Bonus. Until Jack started shouting.
What the hell are you doing, Morgan? What was that? What were you doing? Veli said you were looking into the ruins!
Jack, can you stop shouting, please?
No, I won't stop shouting! Do you even know how stupid that was?
I reached my hand up the moment I felt the blood. Ah, that again. That movement was enough for Jack to release me and step back, but not enough to cool his anger.
You could have killed everyone down there! I told you that you can't use Psi in the ruins!
I didn't touch the ruins with my sphere.
Take this.
I took the extended handkerchief, passing it to my face to stop the bleeding. See, now this is how a gentleman handles things. Now, I know that if we were on Case's route, he would have been yelling at Morgan too. But still, I appreciate the handkerchief at least.
Then what were you doing?
I was looking in the ruins, but I just molded the shape of my sphere to fit the corridors so I wouldn't come into contact with the array and circuits in the walls.
You did what?
I pinched the bridge of my nose, trying to ignore the glare Jack was giving me. There are definitely people in the ruins. I got a glimpse of them before Jack broke my shield, and I severed Brennan's connections to them. Veli forgot all disbelief the moment I mentioned people down there.
Was Rowan there? Was he alright?
Yes, I think Rowan is there.
You appeared to be struggling. Veli said your Psi was...
I had a minor confrontation with Brennan.
You what?
I flinched as he whirled away from me and dragged his hands through his hair. I think I inflicted some damage. I don't know if he's still down there.
Damn it, Morgan! Are you kidding me?
Hold up. Before Jack has an aneurysm, you reshaped your sphere into some weird noodle that could safely navigate ruins, severed Brennan's connections with numerous people down there, attacked him, shielded your mind from his attacks. While keeping a physical shield in place here to protect your body, a shield Jack spent the last 3 minutes slamming his fist into while shouting your name?
Yes.
What the actual hell? How is that possible?
I'm good at multitasking?
Understatement of the century, Morgan.
I can't... Jack, you may shout at her later if you wish. I too believe that was... unfathomably reckless. However, we cannot deny that it achieved our goal. And for now, we should focus on the matter of our people being down in the ruins alone. We need to retrieve them, and see if we can rat out the culprit at last. Morgan, can you lead us there?
Yes, I think so.
Wait a damn minute. At least let me make sure you didn't fry your brain just now.
I feel fine, mostly. Celeste gave me a disbelieving look as she set a hand on my face, narrowing her eyes for a moment. I mean, aside from the bloody nose thing. I felt the familiar prickle of her sigh as she checked out my status.
I don't know how the hell you did all that without melting half your synapses, but...
No evidence of fatigue.
Of course she has psi fatigue after that! But... it's mild. There's also slight trauma from Jack breaking that shield. You can probably thank him for that blood nose.
Celeste...
That level of growth is... terrifying, actually.
What a monster.
If I was the only one here the word monster fit, I might be insulted. As it is, I'm taking it as a compliment. His lips curved up into an almost smirk. I think we may have finally got on Veli's goodish side. Some respect, anyway.
It was meant as one.
Maybe we can discuss this later on. I'm worried about the condition of people down in the labyrinth.
I concur. Let's get a few more people and go look.
I stood as the others started moving as well. Celeste was calling for a couple of other people, and Veli pulled Kesa aside to talk softly. As soon as the others were distracted, Jack grabbed my arm. His expression was dark, with concern, I thought, and anger.
How could you do something like that, Morgan? That level of risk is...
My call.
What?
I said it's my call whether the level of risk is acceptable.
And I'm supposed to stand by and watch every time you decide it's acceptable to throw yourself away.
I didn't throw myself away, Jack. I'm the one still standing.
That lasts precisely until the moment you get cocky.
I don't think shouting is great, so I'll just do this because it doesn't have an exclamation mark. So hopefully that means it's a little bit more calm of like, look, let's be reasonable here. I took a calculated risk. It was a risk, but it was calculated. Jack, someone had to do something. We've been saying it for days. And you agree with it. You're just upset that I am the one that did something. And I know. I understand that. I took one of his hands, holding it tight. I also understand why you spend so much time being reckless for the people here. The only thing anyone here can do is their best. And we can only make what seems like the right call in a given situation. That's all I did. I get that you're scared of losing people again. But everyone here is scared of losing their loved ones too. If all we ever do is look out for ourselves, how does anything here get any better? He knew I was right. I could see it in his face. But knowing I was right wasn't the same as being okay with me taking risks. Even so, he was going to have to accept it if he really wanted me to be a part of things here. I think that's the only thing that's been a little hard for me with Jack's route, is him and Morgan are like being so similar, right? With risks and being upset when the other takes risks and everything, that it's... I worry about like how well they can last into the future with all this stress going on that they're putting each other through. I don't know. Like, so far, whenever the other one takes risks, it devolves into a shouting match, and then one of them has to I will say up to this point, one of them does usually, like, take the calm route, try to be reasonable and stuff. But I do worry. Out of the 3 I've done so far, I worry about Morgan and Jack for longevity. But maybe that'll change before the end. But just as an aside, that's the only kind of, like, niggling thing that's got me.
I get this is a touching moment, but for the record, you look ridiculous having a serious conversation with that silk handkerchief stuck on your nose. Also, we need your help with this.
Jack shot him a poisonous glare, then pulled me into a tight hug, pressing my face against his chest.
I know. I get it. I get that I'm just... having a tantrum.
Just channel that energy to the people who deserve it.
I will. When we find this guy, I'm the first one that's going to punch him in the face. Oh my god, if you don't release her, I'm going to personally drag her out of your arms, Jack. Just try it. I've already decided there's not a man alive who is going to pull her out of my arms.
Okay, but for the record, I kinda can't breathe like this.
If the 3 of you are finished, we do have a situation to deal with.
I'm coming. But Jack stayed close by as we followed the others. Alright, here we go. We were still cautious going into the ruins. There were more dangers than just using Psi there. It was strange physically walking through an area I'd only seen in my head before, but that was the benefit of clairvoyance, I guess. I knew the path, even beyond the point where I'd walked with my own 2 feet. The corridor gave way to a large room right where I expected it to. I was surprised that it wasn't far away. We walked less than half an hour to reach it. What am I looking at now? Wow, is all I can say. Wow. And everyone was there exactly as I said. Everyone except the one person we needed to find most. Kesa and I looked for Brennan, while Celeste and everyone checked on the others. Well, we weren't certain what Brennan looked like, but I expected to recognize him somehow if I saw him. I may recognize him too, potentially. At the very least, I had hoped to find someone that seemed to be suffering from the fallout of a mental attack. There was no one like that, and no one with Queen-ranked Psi. We could only assume he had made an escape or was hiding nearby. But we had other priorities, namely getting everyone else back to Cordis. Most of the others seemed to be okay, including Rowan. He was a little disoriented, but seemed to wake up when he saw Veli. Yay! I stood off to the side as the two of them reunited. I hadn't expected tears, but the way Veli cried as he cradled Rowan's face made me glad I'd been willing to risk a confrontation for their sake. Aw. Jack saw it too, and from the look on his face, I thought maybe he could understand why I'd taken such a risk in the first place. The other thing that surprised me as we looked around was that there was food and supplies. They had really been living down here. There may never have been a primary access point down into the ruins. If I hadn't looked down here, we may have found nothing at all. That was the good part, and the neutral part. The bad news was that while most were okay, some were not. There were a few who were unconscious, crumpled to the ground as if they'd fallen without warning. And we couldn't rouse them no matter what. Maybe those ones were dead? I was certain we were all thinking the same thing, but Celeste suggested we get everyone back to Cordis before jumping to conclusions. Besides, while most of the people we found, just over a dozen, were people affiliated with the court, some were not. Kesa would need to identify them later so we could get them back to their families and loved ones. Jack and the others wanted to launch a larger search to find Brennan, but Kesa refused to seek out a confrontation with a cornered queen rank in the ruins. Not when there were others that needed help. Sensible. It was almost anticlimactic, but I couldn't be disappointed by that. None of us wanted to get down there and have another fight on our hands. Frustrating as it was that we couldn't find Brennan, it meant we could focus on getting everyone to safety. That was what mattered. Getting everyone upstairs had taken a couple of hours and multiple trips, but Celeste could finally examine the most severely impacted people. For the most part, it was just mild dehydration. Some residual confusion and anxiety as well, all understandable. I helped others bring food and blankets, getting everyone warmed up and comfortable again, all while listening to the others talk and try to question the people we'd rescued. Good to see you again, Rowan.
I don't remember much at all. There are some vague memories, but nothing solid. It was like my consciousness was just suppressed, and someone else was controlling all my higher functions. I was the one moving around, but it was like someone else was giving orders I couldn't ignore or question. This level of control he's able to exhibit remains concerning. However, given that he lost control of everyone when Morgan attacked him, we're dealing with a reasonably straightforward ability.
I handed off a cup of coffee to one of the girls we'd brought up, keeping an ear on the conversation going on at the other side of the room. Huh. Biokinetic hearing enhancement is useful after all.
My bigger concern is for the people we can't wake up. I'm going to have to take a closer look at them later when we get everyone else sorted. They're all stable for now, but...
Given what we know about his ability, it's possible they're too far gone, isn't it?
I would say that's the most likely possibility.
Well, that means they were already beyond help before he even got to them.
Unless he's the one that...
She trailed off.
There will be time to figure those things out later. For now, we should be cautious. We can't be sure this is over yet.
I pulled a blanket out of a large box of them that materialized from somewhere, probably thanks to Kesa, and took it to a quiet young man we'd brought up with the others. He'd been sitting alone. He was skittish and hadn't let Celeste check him over earlier. That, we were realizing, was a common response from someone who'd gone through what these people had. No one had identified the man yet, but he didn't seem too bad off in terms of physical well-being, so Celeste let it go for now. His Psy, I had noted earlier, was faintly blue, the color of a knight. Ah, knights are blue, good to know. It didn't seem all that strong, but there were several others with similar Psy. Poor man. I approached him cautiously, crouching down to smile at him as I offered the blanket. He seemed to be my age, maybe a little younger. Here, this is for you. Are you hungry? Thirsty? I can get you something warm to drink if you want. I am squinting. It was funny. As she was like describing this guy that's just like kind of off to the side, I was like, it's funny that we're singling somebody out for this. What if this guy is like hidden amongst the refugees? Because this silhouette is very similar to the silhouette we've seen with the purple threads earlier today, even with the fight. And I've been rewatching some of William's route, and he doesn't look exactly like William, but he does look enough like William that I have to question some things. You know, just picture a scarf and a jacket, some messier hair. We might have our guy. That's why the chapter's called Infiltration. I just realized. Oh, this is gonna be trouble. Okay. He hesitated and reached for the blanket. Yeah, man, he does actually look a lot like William. Oh my goodness, this is crazy.
A warm drink would be good.
I'm Morgan, by the way. What's your name? He hesitated. You really didn't think that far ahead, did you? Like, it's... I don't mean... Brandon. Yeah, that's my name. Not Brennan Raw. Not King. Good thinking ahead.
It's Brandon.
Okay. Stay here and I'll be back in just a minute.
Will the people from below stay here? In this place?
Some of them. If they have nowhere else to go. Or we'll find safe places nearby. Do you have somewhere to go? A family waiting for you? A sad little smile crossed his face.
No. I have no place. And no family.
Then I'm sure you can stay here if you want to.
That's a nice thought. This place is warm.
Well, we were having issues with the heating system, so if you get cold, let me know. We have more blankets. And I'm sure they'll be assigning rooms so everyone can rest soon. He said nothing else after that. Alright. Okay. I went to get him some hot tea, then to check on some others, so I didn't have much more chance to talk to him. We'll interact later. But I was sure there would be more time for that later on. Wink, wink. I see you, Morgan. It was late before I got to bed. We'd had an early start and late finish, and there had been so many long talks and speculating, and I was exhausted. Despite that, I somehow felt like it would be a struggle to sleep. I stripped as soon as I entered the room, then flopped on the bed staring at the ceiling. Regardless of getting everyone back, we were still on high alert. They were setting up constant patrols throughout the night. Every exit was guarded, and people were patrolling outside in case there were any more window escapees. It was the only thing we could do. With Brennan still at large, we had no idea if or when he'd start up again. If we were correct that he couldn't re-establish severed connections, then the people recovered were safe for now, as well as the ones he'd been thwarted in taking. But everyone else was still vulnerable. And for now, we had no way to prevent one of his attacks. Kesa was staying overnight, which was apparently something he almost never did, but he was making an exception. Everyone was keeping a close eye on him since he would be a prime capture target. I had been told to be prepared if they needed my help, but I very much hoped that wouldn't be the case. Jack was on one of the patrols, but I was still awake when he came in at last. For a moment, we stared at one another in awkward silence.
I thought you'd be asleep already.
I'm tired, but not sleepy. And I guess I didn't want to sleep without talking.
I knew you'd want to talk.
I just wanted to clear the air. We haven't really talked since everything happened.
I can think of other, more pleasant ways to clear the air.
Do you really want to lecture about how other things don't actually clear the air?
No. No, I do not. It's way too damn late for lectures.
Hopefully not for talking.
Ugh.
I watched with amusement as he fell dramatically on the other side of the bed, giving me his usual cocky grin.
The things I do for you.
I didn't realize talking was such an ordeal.
It usually isn't. Today, though, everything is an ordeal today.
I slid over to him, setting my head against the back of his shoulder. I know you got frustrated with me earlier.
To be fair, I was kind of pissed at everyone.
Oh? Because you only yelled at me, as I recall.
Nah. I yelled at Veli for not helping me break that damn shield of yours. And at Kesa for defending him. You were just too busy to hear me.
Ah. We're both like, ah. Ah. Well, at least you were fair.
Look, Morgan. I was frustrated with you, yeah. But I was mostly just frustrated at myself for not being able to do a damn thing about the situation so you didn't have to get involved. I was frustrated at Veli and Kesa for not having the answer either. And it wasn't their fault, or mine, or yours. But I can't yell at the universe without looking like a madman. And we've had more than our share of those around here the past few weeks. Until we find this Brennan asshole, I can't yell at him either. I shouldn't have yelled at you, but then you pulled a stunt like that. It scared the hell out of me, Morgan. I don't think I can survive losing you. I know I can't.
I know. I didn't want to scare you. I just wanted all this to be over. Every time I looked at Veli, I kept imagining how I'd have felt if you were the one who disappeared. If I hadn't been able to stop you that night, I'd be suffering right alongside him. I can't survive that. So I don't want anyone else to have to try to survive it either. When I realized there was a chance I could help, I took it.
I know you just wanted to help. And this time it worked out. And I can admit that it was a necessary risk, but that doesn't mean I like it.
You can't always hide me away from everything. He shifted around, drawing me into his arms, setting his chin on my head.
I can try.
Then I hope you're prepared for a lot of these talks.
Can't we just go with my method of clearing the air?
I don't mind your method, but only after we talk first. We sat in silence for a few minutes.
I just can't stop thinking you shouldn't be here dealing with this kind of thing. We brought you here. This is our fault. My fault.
And if I wasn't here, I'd just be in Braceil. In Endgame, right?
Yeah.
At least here, I decide when to take risks. If I was there, someone would do it for me.
That's true. I just wish you didn't have to take these kinds of risks at all. I wish we lived in a better world. I wish I didn't have to drag you into this one to protect you from something that might be worse.
At least here, I have you.
Well, that is a pretty good perk, I admit.
I agree. Jack and I were both struggling to sleep, so after his shower, we found ourselves curled up together, my head resting on his shoulder as I traced my finger over one of his many scars. Jack, you know, I've been thinking a lot about your sister's journal and her ability to look ahead the way she always did. I don't think even she believed the flow of time was inevitable, but I think she'd agree that we end up where we're supposed to end up. That doesn't mean getting there is painless. It just means we can move forward knowing where we're meant to be. That was a lot of wheres. Where meant... That was a bit of a tongue twister.
This is awfully deep for 2 in the morning, Morgan.
This is the only time that deep conversations happen, I'll have you know, sir. What I'm trying to say is that I'm meant to be here. Now. In Chestershire. With you. I really believe that. So don't feel guilty for your part in bringing me here. I don't regret being here. Jack squeezed me tighter, a shuddering breath escaping him. He rolled onto his side, one of his hands strained to my cheek as we lay there facing one another.
When I was back at Endgame, I never questioned what Sylvia and I were being trained to do. It was better than the slums. There was no way I'd question it. And I never once worried about Sylvia. She trained hard, and I think she struggled a lot more than she ever let on. But she was the precious queen rank. Everyone treated her like she was a damn goddess, someone untouchable. I treated her the same way, like she was invulnerable. And then, it turns out, she was none of those things. And I only realized it when she was gone. Not just her, my mentor too. I mean, hell, he was practically my father. And I always thought he was the strongest person. He was someone no one else could beat. And in an instant, they were both gone.
Man, so he lost his sister and his mentor that was like a father to him. Dang.
I don't want that to happen again. But how do you stop that without living in a cage?
You don't.
I'm sorry for getting upset earlier and acting like an ass.
Aw. Cute. I'm sorry for doing something reckless.
You don't have to apologize to me for saving people. You did the right thing. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Aw, there we go. Lips on lips, as it should be. I moved up a little and kissed him. He shut his eyes, lips trembling against mine as his fingers slipped to the back of my head to hold me in place. I'm still sorry I scared you. Jack didn't respond. He leaned forward into the kiss instead, drawing me closer to him. There was a hint of neediness in that kiss. The way he held me like he thought I might disappear. The tender way his lips played against mine and the sudden heat of his breath made me hold him even tighter. His tongue gently pushed against mine with languid ease. His hands moved to my back, fingertips kneading gentle circles on either side of my spine. Then he was laying me back against the mattress, propping himself above me with a slight smirk.
Do we get to finish this reconciliation my way?
Well, I suppose. If it'll make you feel better.
It will. Immensely.
He lowered his head to the side of my neck. I felt the brief wetness of his tongue before his lips.
I have a lot of pent-up energy. It was a frustrating day.
I have no idea how you have any energy. Shouldn't you be exhausted by now? Jack raised his head, frowning down at me.
Are you? If you're too tired.
Aw, that was sweet. I'm glad he asked. I laughed and pulled him down for another kiss, smiling against his lips. I never said anything about that. He grinned, letting his hands wander to my hips.
Good.
Later, I lay with my head against his chest, listening to the ever-present rain outside behind the faint sound of his breathing. And I wondered if this was really over. Or maybe only just beginning.